The moment my mom walked into my room, speaking in that overly sweet, careful voice, I knew something was wrong. She always used that tone when she had bad news and wanted me to take it well. I was sitting on my bed, scrolling through Pinterest, looking for outfit ideas for my birthday dinner. I had booked a table at my favorite Italian restaurant 3 weeks ago. It was supposed to be just the four of us, me, my parents, and my younger brother, Josh. Nothing fancy, just good food, some laughs, and maybe cake afterward. Turning 21 felt like a big deal to me, even though my family never really made a big fuss about me like they did with Josh. Please subscribe to our channel and comment below where you're watching from. Sweetheart, my mom said, folding her hands like she was about to give a serious speech. About your birthday dinner tonight, something came up. I looked up slowly. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. Josh's friends planned this huge surprise party for him, she continued, smiling now as though this news would somehow delight me. He turns 18 this weekend, and they wanted to throw it a few days early so more people could come. We didn't want to say no. They're even doing it at that lakeside hall we went to for Uncle Gary's anniversary. My stomach dropped, but that's tonight. She nodded, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I know, but your birthday happens every year, and this is Josh's big 18, his friends put in so much effort. And I didn't? I asked, my voice low. I made the reservation, I planned the whole night, I even ordered a cake. My dad appeared behind her in the hallway and offered me a sheepish shrug. Can we rain check it, kiddo, maybe next week? I didn't answer, not because I didn't have words, but because I had too many. They swirled in my head, biting and bitter, tangled with all the other times they had done this to me. Like when they forgot to pick me up after dance class because Josh had football practice. Or when they missed my school play to attend his soccer finals. Or the time they made me change my college plans because his tutoring schedule clashed with my move-in date. This wasn't new, it was just sharper now, louder. I swallowed hard and said nothing. My mother, mistaking silence for understanding, kissed my head. You're such a good girl, we'll do something next weekend, just us, I promise. Then she was gone. My father gave me a pat on the back like I was a puppy who had learned to sit. Josh didn't even knock, he just burst in and grabbed a pair of shoes he'd left by my desk. You're cool with this, right? He asked, not waiting for an answer. Oh, and if you're not going to wear that lavender dress, can Mia borrow it? She wants something flowy. I stared at him, stunned. You want me to lend my birthday outfit to your girlfriend? He smirked. Well, you're not going anywhere fancy tonight, are you? By the time they all left, the house was dead silent. I sat in my dress anyway, the one I had planned for weeks. It still smelled faintly of the lavender sachets I'd tucked into the closet, still held the promise of a celebration that would never come. My phone pinged with a reminder, birthday dinner at 7 p.m., Trattoria Milano. I stared at it until the screen faded to black. Then I stood up. I walked to the mirror and looked at myself, not just at the dress or the makeup I'd applied before the conversation shattered everything, but at my eyes. There was something there I hadn't seen before. Resolve. I grabbed my phone and called the restaurant. I told them the reservation was still on, but for one. The hostess sounded surprised but polite. We'll still hold your table, ma'am, she said, and happy birthday. I went. I sat at that table under soft lights, with a linen napkin on my lap, and I ordered my favorite meal. I toasted to myself with a single glass of sparkling apple cider because I didn't feel like drinking wine. I posted a photo of the empty table with my meal and wrote, "Happy birthday to me," even if no one else remembered. The post exploded. Comments poured in from classmates, coworkers, even distant cousins I barely spoke to. Some were shocked, some furious, others supportive. A girl from my college DM'd me, saying she'd been through something similar and ended up cutting her family off. It was like a floodgate opened. But I didn't respond to most of them, not right away. Instead, I started planning. Because if they wanted to make my birthday unforgettable for all the wrong reasons, I was going to give them a surprise none of them would ever forget. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not the kind of silence that soothes you, but the thick, suffocating kind that hangs in the air when something is broken. I walked into the kitchen, half expecting at least a note or a leftover slice of cake. Anything that said, "We care." But there was nothing. No balloons, no apology, just a sink full of dishes and a loud reminder in my head, you were never the priority. I opened my phone. The Instagram post I made had gone viral, over 30,000 likes, hundreds of comments. People were angry on my behalf. Strangers from around the world called it cruel, heartbreaking, typical golden child favoritism. A few had even found Josh's profile and started leaving angry emojis under his football photos. I hadn't asked for any of this, but I also didn't stop it. At noon, my mom called. I didn't answer. At 1:14 p.m., she texted, "Can we talk?" At 1:30 p.m., another text, "People are posting horrible things about us. What did you say?" I left her on read. By the time evening rolled around, I had made a decision. Not out of spite, but out of something deeper, self-respect. I realized I had spent most of my life waiting for my parents to see me, to notice me, to fight for me the way they always fought for Josh. But the truth is, sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest, and then act like it never happened. So I packed a bag. Not dramatically, not with tears. Just quietly, methodically. I took my essentials, my laptop, my savings, and I booked a room at a cozy little guest house downtown using some of the money I'd been saving for my birthday. I didn't want to be in that house a second longer. And I didn't need their permission to leave anymore. Later that night, I wrote a follow-up post. "Thank you for the overwhelming support. I didn't share my story for attention, but because I realized how many people out there feel invisible in their own homes. I'm okay, I treated myself, I remembered my own worth. And I've decided to take a break from a place that constantly makes me feel small. I deserve better, and so do you." I didn't name names, I didn't say my mom or my brother or Josh. But people connected the dots anyway. Within hours, someone sent me a screenshot. Josh had turned his comments off. My mom deactivated her Facebook account. My dad sent me a long email about how disappointed he was in my public airing of family matters. But not once did anyone say, "I'm sorry." Not once did they ask how I felt. Then, 2 days later, something strange happened. A woman messaged me, her name was Claire, and she introduced herself as someone who worked for an online magazine. She said my story had caught their attention, and they wanted to interview me, not to shame my family, but to talk about the overlooked siblings. The ones who are constantly told to wait, to be patient, to be less needy because someone else is always louder, or more fragile, or more important. I agreed, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted to reclaim my voice. The article went live a week later. It was titled, "The Birthday She Spent Alone, and Why She'd Do It Again." It resonated deeply with readers. People started tagging their siblings, their parents, their friends. Some apologized to their own overlooked siblings. Others finally saw themselves in my words and cried. Meanwhile, my parents tried to call. My mom even drove to the guest house once. She left a gift bag with a card that said, "We were wrong, please come home." But something inside me had shifted. I sent her a message that read, "Thank you for the gesture. I'm not ready to come back yet. I need space, I need healing. And I need to know that if I ever do return, I won't be expected to shrink just to make someone else shine." Weeks turned into months. I found a small studio apartment and moved in. I started freelancing for that same magazine that had interviewed me. My story opened doors I didn't know existed, not just in writing, but in confidence. I wasn't just the forgotten daughter anymore. I was a woman with a voice, a story, and a spine. Josh sent me a message eventually. It wasn't much, just, "I didn't realize how much you were hurting. I'm sorry." That was the first time he had ever said anything like that. I didn't hate him. He was just used to the spotlight. He never realized how cold it could be in the shadows. As for my parents, they're still learning, or trying to. Sometimes healing comes from confrontation. Other times, it comes from walking away. Mine came from choosing myself. From understanding that a birthday isn't about who shows up at a dinner table, but who shows up for you every day. And the surprise I gave them? It wasn't just about the viral post. It wasn't just their silence. It was about becoming someone who stopped begging for their attention, because I finally gave that love and care to myself. Now, every year on my birthday, I go back to Trattoria Milano. I reserve the same table and raise a glass to the girl who stopped waiting. Because that night was when my real life began.